So we're going through our values, and we are reading a book called Love and Law by Ernest Holmes. It's really a transcription of a bunch of lectures that he gave between 1918 and 1920, and where he pretty much talks about how to do spiritual mind treatment, which was his contribution to the New Thought movement, that is a methodology for effective prayer, which is what he came up with and what he taught. And when he started out in that early time, he was all about the law. But near the end of his life, he was all about the love. So this month, we started out with Reverend Madeline talking about the value of trust, transformational tools, and trust is a transformational tool. And I talked about the following week, the value and the vibration of joy. And then last week, of course, we talked about love. And so this week, I want to talk about faith. And it reminded me of a story of my friend Rebecca, who is a horsewoman. She does endurance rides. She rides 50 miles at a time. And she does that every weekend that she can while the weather is good. And she also takes trips to other countries and rides horses there. And at one time, she went to Australia to a ride that was through the night. And it went through a very deep forest, maybe even a jungle, I'm not sure which. But the thing was, what they were instructed to do was to let go of the reins because they could not see. She could not see her hand in front of her face. That's how dark it was there. It was totally black, could not see a thing. So she had to let the horse find its way through this path. The only thing they could see was the spark from the horse's hooves when it hit a stone. That was it. That's faith. That is having faith in your animal who has skills beyond yours. Having faith that that animal knows just where to step, to stay upright, to stay balanced in that darkness. So there are so many definitions of faith. Of course, in the Bible, it says, faith in Hebrews 11:1, it says, faith is the substance of things not seen, the substance of things hoped for, the evidence of things not seen. The substance of things hoped for, the evidence of things not seen. Now, when we talk about substance in the metaphysical world, we talk about something that exists everywhere. And modern physics might call it dark energy and dark matter. Maybe substance is the dark matter. But whatever, they call it dark because they don't know what it is, but we think it's probably consciousness. That consciousness is not something within us. It's not something that emanates from our brain. It is something that we are tuning into, and we have been constructed in this body with a brain that is a receptor for that consciousness, and that there's only one consciousness. There is only one mind, this consciousness of life itself that is everywhere present, and we are tuning into it. So it's sort of like, a broadcast station is broadcasting whether we're tuning in or not. NBC is broadcasting. And do we tune into NBC, or do we tune into Fox News, or do we tune into the CW, or do we tune into whatever? We get to choose how we're going to tune into this universal energy. Now, the ultimate energy, which we picture in our teaching symbol, this is a teaching symbol for those of you who may be new to this community, the upper portion of it is that consciousness of life itself, the creator, the spirit of life itself, that mind that is the highest and best of all, that created everything that is out of itself. And so it's the highest thought. And then there is the thought that everyone has been thinking since the beginning of time. Some people call this like the Akashic record. In psychology, they call it the collective unconscious. Okay, so there's this collective unconscious that is operating in all of us. We pick up on that as well. We pick up on all these thoughts and all these beliefs, especially those of our own families, our own societies, our own cultures. We pick up on all those thoughts and we believe in them. Whether or not they prove to be true, ultimately, as long as we believe in them, they are true for us. That is the thing about faith. Spiritual Economics, the book we're reading for our class, says faith deals with law. Faith deals with law. And he says, faith is not a vague process of believing in something. It's rather a positive act of turning on something. It's a positive act of turning on something. The power is already within us. The ideal is not believing in, but believing from. Not believing in, because we're not believing in God, because if we believe in God, we think that God is separate from us. So we are believing from a place of believing that God is a life process that we are all a part of. So Butterworth says, God is the transcendent whole of things of which we are individualized parts. So in other words, there is nothing that could separate us from God but our own belief that we're separate. And the thing is, most of us were raised with a belief that we were separate, that there was this God out there who might answer our prayer and might not answer our prayer, and might, do things because it was just mad that day, that it was sort of a capricious God. And that's not the case. What we're talking about is God as principle and yet personal. So it is a law, and yet it is also love. So we get to tune into this. Faith is tuning into this energy, this flow that is everywhere present, but that we have gotten disconnected from by our own involvement with the material world and with the collective unconscious, rather than tuning in to the essence of the divine that's right there. We have not faith in God, but the faith of God. Not faith in God, but the faith of God. Butterworth also talks about it being like a rheostat. You have a rheostat on the light, and the light can go all the way up to bright, or we can go down to dim. But the power to go bright is always there. It's us who is either lifting or lowering our own personal rheostat to the acceptance of that energy of flow. Now, the thing about this is, and a lot of people don't like this philosophy because it says that we're responsible for what we think. We have to be responsible about what we think about. And we all go unconscious. We all just tune in, we just tune out, and we just sort of go along with the program, whatever, blah, 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 blah. And when we do, Thomas Troward says we're subject to the law of averages. In other words, some people will do well on that track and some people will not. We have that old bell curve, remember that one? And so we just sort of, cruise and see what happens. But we can also consciously state an intention. Now, the thing about that is we have to know what we want. A lot of us are confused about what exactly we really want. It's not about stuff. It's not about the things. It's ultimately about the experiences that we have. And so hope and faith are about the consciousness that is centered in the universal source. The consciousness that is centered in the universal source, that is what faith is. It's tuning into what has always been present. Now, I remember when I first started out in programming, one of my programming teachers said he was told about a thing they had at General Electric. When new engineers came out of school, they were all really hot to trot, they were really full of themselves, and so they would give them a really difficult problem, and one that they thought was impossible, so that they would learn that you can't solve every problem, and they would develop some humility and get on with the job. And so what they gave them was the challenge of putting the coating of the light bulb on the inside instead of the outside. And of course, eventually, one of those engineers figured it out. Because if you don't know you can't do it, you just might be able to do it. If you don't believe that it's impossible, it's possible, which means you set up an intention of faith in the possibility. And we live in a universe of infinite possibility. So you set up an intention of possibility, and when you do that, the how to do it comes to you. The how to do it comes to you through all kinds of sometimes accidental things. I mean, when we're talking to scientists about the different things that they develop, a lot of times they will say, well, then I accidentally found out that blah, 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 blah. Well, not really. We're talking about synchronicity. We stumble upon something like penicillin, was a little, growth in the little petri dish. It was like, whoops, this is useful. I just heard this morning that they are exploring medieval remedies because they're thinking that some of these medieval remedies might have something to them in terms of what their contents are that might actually be useful. Now, they know some of them are not, but they're exploring things like, combining pomegranate and vinegar and all these different things, because the antibiotics that we do have are becoming less and less effective. And so they're trying to find things that can be more effective in treating wounds and diseases and things of that nature. So we have to have faith that if we set that intention, and if we really believe that it can be done, then the means and the processes and the possibilities will be developed for us. Yesterday, I went to a concert that was at the Presbyterian Church, Sierra Presbyterian. It was by the Grass Valley Male Choir, which is a choir put together for keeping the tradition of Cornish male voices alive. And in fact, they're leaving this week for Cornwall. And they will actually be in Cornwall giving concerts, being part of a huge 600 participant international festival of choirs in Cornwall, and we are the only Americans there. Grass Valley, the only Americans at this festival. But one of the songs that they sang was a song that was called The Inscription of Hope. And it was based upon an inscription on the wall of a cellar in Cologne that was used to hide Jews during World War II. They were hiding them from the Nazis. And upon this wall, one of them had written, "I believe in the sun, even when it's not shining. And I believe in love, even when there's no one there. And I believe in God, even when he is silent. I believe through any trial, there is always a way. But sometimes in this suffering and hopeless despair, my heart cries for shelter, to know someone's there. But a voice rises within me saying, 'Hold on, my child. I'll give you strength. I'll give you hope. Just stay a little while. I believe in the sun, even when it's not shining. I believe in love, even when there's no one there. And I believe in God, even when he is silent. I believe through any trial, there is always a way. May there someday be sunshine. May there someday be happiness. May there someday be love. May there someday be peace.'" That is a person who had faith that they would come through this terrible trial. Now, I do not know whether they made it out of that cellar, whether they made it into the sunshine, whether they made it into love, but my heart says they did. My heart says that with that divine intention, they did. In 2008, every year I declare a quality of God. I don't declare, I get it. In other words, I do a meditation. I say, okay, what's the quality for this year? 2008, the quality was faith. In January of that year, my favorite cousin, who was like a brother to me, who was just 6 months younger than I am, I'd spent my whole life with him, passed away from pancreatic cancer. Shortly thereafter, the week after, my partner was diagnosed with metastatic lung cancer, and by March, he had passed away. By May, 2 other friends had passed away. And so I had also gotten in that meditation very strongly the word welcome home. Welcome home. And so I thought, maybe I'm dying too. You know, maybe this is my time to leave. And it was like, okay, if it's my time, it's my time. There you go. I'm ready. Not my life anymore. Whatever wants to happen, I'm ready for life to take me. You know, I'm giving myself to life in a new way. And so, what happened? I ended up here with you. Yay. So I had a whole new life, one I could not have imagined, that was beyond anything I could have imagined. But it was about having faith. And I tell you, through those months of losing, what helped me was having a daily connection to the presence of God within. A daily practice of meditation and prayer, a daily realization of the presence in my life. So that is one of the things that helps us to build up that faith muscle. Just like any other muscle in your body, you know, you exercise it. If you want it to keep working, you have to exercise it. Well, same thing with this practicing the presence. It's a daily activity that we do to continue to unfold, to continue to expand, and to realize the potential of the authentic divine that is right where we are. We are that. Yes, we have a body, and it's a wonderful vehicle, but we also have that presence of the divine, and we have to remember that presence of the divine. So stay prayed up. That's what we call it. Stay prayed up, because sometimes you're going to hit situations that are going to be like the alien on your face. And if you don't have that prayed upness, it's going to be more of a challenge. But if you're prayed up, you can overcome anything. You can rip that sucker off. And persevere. Those people in that cellar, they had to keep the faith. They had to persevere. Churchill said, when you're going through hell, keep going. You do not want to get stuck there. And we have to remember, everything changes. It will change. The thing is, when we're having a great time, we think everything's wonderful, and then all of a sudden we hit something. When we hit the obstacle, we think, oh, this is going to last forever. I'm going to get stuck here. No, you're not going to get stuck there anymore. You got stuck in the good time. It's all going to change. It always does. So it's having faith that things are going to change. So remember that we're not only human. We are divine. We are divine. And so part of what we're doing with faith is raising that rheostat. We're letting go of anything unlike that presence of the divine. We are getting in touch with that natural essence of who we truly are. We will always get what we want. We get what we expect, no matter what we pray for. We get what we expect no matter what we pray for, and that means you're praying for it, but you're not really expecting that it's going to work. Because I don't know about this stuff. If you don't expect it to work, it's not going to work. If you're sort of hoping it might work, it sort of might work a little bit. But if you know, I am speaking my word as the essence of the divine that I am, and I'm holding that in faith, I am standing in faith, then all things are possible. And our true desire is not to have, but to be. It's to be love, to be joy, to be creative, to be abundant, to be joyful and happy and generous, and all of those things that are qualities that bring us joy. So Ernest Holmes says, we may meet difficulties, uncertainties, and doubts, barriers walling our passage, but we must not be discouraged when so confronted. We must climb over the rocks of unbelief and pass around the barriers of doubt and plunge into the stream with faith. The stream will ever widen. The barriers will gradually disappear. Though we walk through the plains and valleys of indecision and doubt, the stream will still carry us back to the ocean of our being. The streams will still carry us back to the ocean of our being. So let's say our affirmation together. I have faith in the flow of the divine in my life. I have faith in the flow of the divine in my life. I have faith in the flow of the divine in my life. And so it is.